It's 5 a.m. The market on Bethnal Green Road is already awake. You're 17 years old, hauling crates of fish for Mr. Delaney, a red-faced man who smells of cigarettes and never looks you in the eye. The cobblestones are wet. Your hands are numb. You make 4 pounds a week, and you send 3 of them home to your mother, who hasn't asked where the 4th goes. You already know this isn't your life. You've known it since you were 12, watching the men in long coats step out of black cars on Roman Road, the way the whole street seemed to tighten when they walked, the way shopkeepers nodded too quickly and looked away too carefully. Power doesn't announce itself in East London. It just makes the air different. Then one morning, a man named Freddie Doyle leans against the wall beside your crate stack and lights a cigarette without offering you one. He's 30-something, thin, with a face that has been rearranged at least once. He watches you work for a full minute before he speaks. He says someone reliable is needed for a simple delivery. A bag, address in Stepney, 20 pounds. You ask no questions. You already know the rule. Men like Freddie don't explain. You either say yes or you disappear back into the gray, back into the fish crates and the 4 pounds and the life that was never meant to be anything. You say yes. The bag weighs almost nothing. You don't open it. That's the first rule you learn without being taught. The ones who open the bag don't get a second delivery. You walk to Stepney, knock twice on a green door, hand it over, receive a folded note in return, and walk back. The whole thing takes 40 minutes. When you give the note to Freddie, he peels off 20 pounds from a roll that would have taken you 5 weeks to earn under Delaney's fluorescent lights. He tells you to be outside the same wall at 5 a.m. on Thursday. You are there at 4:45. The deliveries become weekly, then twice weekly. The bags vary. The addresses change. You start to map the network without meaning to. A tobacconist in Mile End, a car repair shop on the commercial road, a flat above a laundrette in Hackney with curtains that never open. You're not a member of anything yet. You're a runner, the lowest denomination in a currency system you're only beginning to understand. But you're inside the edges of it now, and that is everything. 3 months in, Freddie takes you to a pub called the Griffin on a Tuesday afternoon when it's closed to everyone else. There are 4 men sitting at a table near the back. You recognize one of them from the newspapers, though you don't say so. His name is Raymond Doyle, no relation to Freddie, and he runs the eastern boroughs with the kind of quiet authority that doesn't require violence because everyone already understands the alternative. He looks at you the way a man looks at a tool he's deciding whether to keep. He asks you 2 questions. First, can you keep your mouth shut in a police station? Second, do you owe anybody anything? You answer yes, then no. He nods once and looks back at his drink. Freddie tells you outside that you've just been introduced. You won't understand what that means for another 6 months. What it means is that you now have a name inside the organization. The work shifts. You're no longer carrying bags. You're carrying messages, verbal ones, nothing written, between men who will not meet each other in person. You become a living telephone wire in a network that runs on distrust. You learn faces, voices, code words wrapped inside normal conversation. A man asking about the Wednesday shipment means something arrived and needs to be moved. A man who orders tea without milk is telling the person across from him that someone is watching the building. You absorb this language the way you absorbed everything in school, fast and quietly, without letting anyone see how much you've retained. By the time you're 19, you are earning 120 pounds a week. You move your mother to a better flat in Walthamstow. You tell her it's savings. She doesn't ask from what. You buy yourself a good coat, the kind men like Raymond wear. Not expensive enough to attract attention, but cut in a way that separates you from the street. The coat matters. In this world, everything you wear and everywhere you stand communicates something about who you are and who backs you.
The violence, when it comes, is not dramatic. That's the part nobody understands from the outside. It isn't chaotic. It's administrative. A man named Terence Walsh has been skimming collections in Whitechapel for 8 months. The discrepancy is 4,200 pounds. You are given an address, a time, and a single instruction. Make sure he understands the number. You take 2 men with you, quiet, professional men who treat the whole thing like a job, because it is. Terrence Walsh opens the door in a vest. By the time you leave, he understands the number, and he understands the timeline for repayment, and he understands what the 3rd visit will look like if those 2 things aren't resolved. Nobody shouts. Nobody makes speeches. You drive back across the city in silence, and the 2 men get out at Aldgate without saying goodbye. You sit in the car for a moment before starting the engine. You think about the look on his face when he opened the door. The specific way fear presents itself in a man who knows he's been caught. You think you should feel something heavier about this, but what you feel instead is a clean, cold precision. The system works because everyone understands the weight of it. Terrence Walsh knew what he was doing when he started skimming. He made his calculation, and he was wrong. That's the whole transaction. You start the engine and drive home. By 22, you are managing collections across 4 postcodes, 43 businesses, legal and otherwise, that contribute a percentage of their weekly earnings into the organization's structure. You have 2 runners of your own now. You brief them the way Freddie once briefed you, minimally, clearly, without warmth. You notice yourself becoming someone who doesn't smile easily in rooms full of people he doesn't trust. You notice you don't trust many people. Your mother says you've gone quiet. You tell her you're tired. She accepts this because she has always accepted what you give her and asked for nothing more. That particular guilt is the one you carry in a pocket you never reach into. Raymond promotes you at 23. The word promotion is never used. What happens is that you are invited to a dinner at a private room above a restaurant in Mayfair, not East London, not the territory you know. And you sit at a table with men who control not just neighborhoods, but industries, construction contracts, waste disposal, security firms with government clearance, a city councilor who eats quietly and says very little, a solicitor who handles asset transfers that require no paper trail through methods you won't learn about for another year. You begin to understand that the underworld isn't beneath the world. It's threaded through it, running parallel to everything visible, touching every system that moves money. Your role shifts again. You are now a liaison. You move between the criminal structure and the legitimate one, translating between languages that both sides pretend not to speak. A property developer needs a planning obstacle removed. A counselor needs a problem made quiet before an election. A union dispute needs resolving in a way that benefits a specific party. You arrange meetings that never appear in any diary. You carry no weapon now. You don't need to. The men who carry weapons work for men who work for men like you. The money at this level is not counted in weekly wages. It arrives in structures. A consultancy payment. A directorship. A share in a company you've never visited that produces quarterly returns. You have a legitimate bank account now, and a solicitor of your own, and a flat in Clerkenwell with nothing in it that shouldn't be there. You are 30 years old, and on paper, you are a business development consultant with a client list that would bore any tax inspector into compliance. You are also the man Raymond calls at 2 a.m. when something needs to be decided that can't wait. One night, the call is different. Raymond's voice is flat in a way you haven't heard before. A senior member of the organization, a man named Cartwright, who handles the southern operations, has been speaking to someone he shouldn't. The someone is a name you recognize from a file you were shown 3 years ago and told to forget. A police intelligence file. Cartwright has been talking for possibly 6 months. Raymond says possibly. The word possibly means the decision has already been made, and he is giving you the courtesy of hearing it framed as uncertainty. He asks you what you think should happen. You are silent for 4 seconds. In that silence, every version of yourself, from the 17-year-old on the fish market to the man standing at the window of a Clerkenwell flat, looks back at you. You think about the word no and what it costs. You think about the word yes and what it takes. You think about the coat you bought at 19 that you thought meant something about who you were becoming. You give Raymond an answer. He says, good. He says he'll handle the specifics. He says you've always been reliable, and that reliability is the rarest thing in this world and the most valuable. He hangs up. You stand at the window for a long time after that. The city below looks exactly the same as it always has. The streetlights on Farringdon Road, a night bus moving slowly through empty intersection. London going about the business of existing, indifferent and enormous, full of systems within systems, none of them clean, all of them running. You think about leaving. You've thought about it before, in the abstract, the way you might think about a country you've never visited. But leaving requires permission at your level, and permission requires leverage you don't have, and leverage requires time. And time is the one resource the organization controls more completely than any other. The phone sits on the table. It will ring again. It always rings again. And when it does, you will answer it, because that is what you do now. And because somewhere between the fish crates and the Mayfair dinners and the 2 a.m. decisions, you stopped being someone who could trace the exact moment he became this. And that, more than anything else, is the part that keeps you awake. Not what you've done. The fact that you can't remember when it stopped feeling like a choice.